All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of Kimberley City Council for February the 13th, held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. Welcome both folks in council and anybody watching live on YouTube. We have one additional item, an item of correspondence. Maurice, is there anything else other than that?
No additional items.
All right, we'll deal with that particular correspondence when it comes to the item on the agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I do need a vote to receive it, please.
I'm sorry, what?
I need a vote to add it to the agenda.
Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Royer. Councillor Dunneback seconds. All those in favor? We're in. So with that update, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor Royer moves. Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And we need adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January the 23rd. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we have a couple of delegations first up tonight. We have our Staff Sergeant, Stephen Woodcox, here tonight to provide us with our quarterly report. Steve, over to you. So this quarter,
individual for breaking into the Shadow Mountain Golf Course in Cranbrook. So there was arrest warrants for that individual. He was arrested. He was supposed to show up to court today. And as of today, he didn't show up and we have arrest warrants for him. So like I said, one offender's out of the area. I can say a lot of the calls related to break-and-enters and thefts have drastically went down while one of these males was in custody. So we're hopeful maybe that the gentleman does stay away from this area, but it has made quite a difference to the call volume. Like I said, it's up 30% from the year before, and we're just happy we were able to get him. I want to say one thing. The public is really good in reporting things to the police, and it was due to a lot of the video that we were able to garner from both residents of the city and from businesses that these individuals did crimes at, and that led to a lot of the charges and convictions for these individuals. So one thing I want to say again, I encourage the public to call and to report these incidents, because a lot of the ones that they did, we were able to, in a short period, figure out who did a lot of these crimes and try to bring some of this stuff to a head. So recently, I'd say in the last couple of months, it's probably gone down 85–90%. Wow. Since these individuals were in custody, so that's good. Another subject, mental health calls. We talk about that frequently. I think there's 20 calls as compared to 18 the period before. That continues. As I've said before, times are hard for people. There's not a lot of resources, and that just becomes a daily thing, I think, that we deal with. But the more we deal with the same individuals, the more we start to build rapport with those individuals, and some of those interactions go a lot more smoothly because we've dealt with the same individuals over and over. I made a note of sudden deaths. There was 9 sudden deaths during the quarter as opposed to 6 the month before. We continue to be engaged with the school. I continue to do school talks at different schools. We were invited to an event at Christmas at the alternate school. I did a few school talks there, and I think that's an important thing to still be engaged with the youth, for the youth to know us by name. And we've had many a time where they've come to report the stuff to the police, and it's very nice that the kids have some rapport with us when they come. So, and I'm open to any questions if anyone has any.
All right, thanks, Steve. Councilor Roberts, go ahead. Microphone.
I said, you know that I usually have a question,
Oh,
but
that's
in
fine.
this case, it's like, I'm curious after all these break and enters, was any of the product recovered? Did you get anything back?
Yeah, so some of the stolen property was recovered. And in some instances, when they broke into a lot of these residents, they stole credit cards and stuff. Those, then they went to commit crimes in some of the Cranbrook areas, and we were able to get video and charge a lot of these individuals with a whole bunch of fraud charges as well. So overall, maybe 20% of some of the stolen property is recovered. Sometimes people steal property and they'll take it to another jurisdiction. So yeah, sometimes, but unfortunately not a lot of the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know that they've legalized drugs in the first week of February. Has that impact your load work with your 60% detachment?
No, so as of January 31st, it's now legal to have 2.5 grams of cocaine, methamphetamine stuff. We haven't seen that, but I think the city of Cranbrook suffers a lot more from a lot of that drug problem than we do. But no, I'm still in a kind of wait and see how that will all pan out. I have my concerns about some of that, but we haven't seen any of that impact us yet. You're welcome.
Further, council. All right, hearing no further questions. Thanks very much, Steve. I really
you.
appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you, everyone, for your
All
time.
right,
Have a good
take
night.
care. Thank you. Okay, next up, pardon me, we have Donna Fields, who's here to talk to us about the United Way. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Donna Fields, and I am the Regional Coordinator for the United Way British Columbia East Kootenay office. I have been with United Way for 17 years and have led our United Way as the Cranbrook United Way, Cranbrook Kimberley United Way, the United Way of the East Kootenay, and today as the United Way British Columbia East Kootenay office. We are one of 6 United Ways who merged in 2021. We are now part of a team that has increased our capacity and community benefits in the East Kootenay. Next slide, please. We respectfully acknowledge the homelands of the Indigenous peoples of BC and honor the many territorial keepers of the lands on which we live. Next slide, please. United Way British Columbia supports the development of healthy, caring, and inclusive communities by strengthening vital connections that support people in need. Serving over 4 million people, we focus on urgent response, children and youth, seniors, poverty, mental health, and food security. Next slide, please. What have we heard in the East Kootenay? Number 1, top of the list, is the lack of access to basic needs, the effects of inflation, and the rising cost or lack of housing. And this is true of communities all over BC. The increased demand on critical social community services affecting service organizations and those seeking services. An example shows that food banks are experiencing rapid increases for food assistance. In response, the United Way assisted the Kimberley Cranbrook Food Hub establishing to combine efforts and share resources, especially in food recovery. Number 3, assisting in flood responses and emergency responses over the past and recent years has been crucial for many communities. Fire and flood responses by United Way British Columbia include deliveries of essential need items such as refrigerators in Merritt and other supply supports, not always immediately available through other sources in the aftermath of natural disasters. And this is because United Way has always had critical relationships and partnerships with a lot of businesses and organizations that can more quickly respond to some of the areas that United Way finds is needing assistance. Next slide, please. The total amount of United Way British Columbia investment in the East Kootenays in 2022-23 is $476,679. And this isn't in the East Kootenay area. This is just in the Kimberley Cranbrook area. That breaks down to about $82.64 for children and youth, $50,000 in food security covering basic needs, and $418,415 for seniors, and this is primarily in the Better at Home and Healthy Aging initiatives. Next slide, please. Sorry, I have one more slide that you're not seeing on your screen, but I want to tell you a little bit about the East Kootenay Life Kit project. In an emergency situation, the Life Kit speaks for you when you cannot speak for yourself. These Life Kits are distributed by United Way, they're prepared by United Way, and they're free to anyone wanting to have one. Paramedics help us in distributing these life stick kits, and the paramedics have told us that they look for the life kit sticker when they are approaching a household, because these stickers indicate that they can quickly get the medical information they need if residents are unresponsive. For the life kit to be effective, the instructions included in the kit must be completed and the kit placed in your refrigerator as directed by Life Kit instructions. For more information regarding the Life Kits, please contact your paramedic, or you can contact me at the United Way office. My email is donnaf@unitedwaybc, that's uwbc.ca. Kits are also available at major pharmacies in Cranbrook, Kimberley, Elkford, Creston, and Sparwood, from paramedics or at Seniors Hall. To date, 8,000 kits have been distributed. I'd like to thank you for having me this evening again, and I would like to ask you to please check out our Facebook group. It's United Way British Columbia East Kootenay if you're on Facebook, or you can check out our uwbc.ca website. And I'd just like to share with you this evening, I am going to be retiring this summer. We are going to be posting the position very soon. And if you have any contacts that are looking for employment, I'm working from home and have been since the start of the pandemic. And I think working from home, it has worked very successfully. And I think the new person coming in will be also working from home for a while. So if you know of anyone that would like to have a job that has been very, very fulfilling, working in community, please let them know that they can contact me for more information. I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Donna, for the presentation and for all of the great work that you have done for so long. Hearing you retiring, that you are retiring, it's going to create quite a loss in our communities out here. Congratulations on all the great work you do, but I'm sure retirement is going to fit well as well.
Well, it certainly is. I find I get more and more busier as the years go by, and I know my volunteer positions in both Cranbrook and Kimberley will continue on. I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention too that the Cranbrook Kimberley Food Hub is really, really doing well, and they are presenting their business case to United Way offices very, very soon, and we're very pleased with the progress they've been made. I think they've only been in operation for about 8 months, but they're making a lot of progress.
That's outstanding, Donna. Council, questions or comments? Go ahead, Stephen.
We're going to miss you. That's a big hole to fill.
We always like to think that we are so indispensable, but I'm sure someone else will step up very, very soon.
All right, that's pretty much it, Donna. Thank you for your presentation and best
Thank
of
you
luck
very
with
much
the
for
campaign.
having me.
You bet. All right, on to regular business. And first up, we have bylaws for first, second, or third readings. And first up, we have the OCP amendment and zoning amendment 2733, which relates to the properties in Marysville that we know as the Marysville mini storage. Before we get to staff comments and council comments, we do have the developer with us here this evening. Lee, did you want to say a few words? Give council a heads up on kind of what the plan is? Yeah, a couple minutes for sure. Awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor and Council, to be here. Thank you. So I am, my name is Lee Dowd. I own the Marysville storage lands there. It's about just under 2.5 acres. There's 163 storage units there, about 40 outside storage units, and it's been a great asset. And I would like to do something different and in my heart better for it. So it's kind of the, as you know, it's the entrance into Kimberley. Currently, the entrance into Kimberley has kind of the metal scrap yard and then the 2 car dealerships and Marysville Storage, which is kind of kitty corner from Bootleg Gap Golf Course would be that entrance. So I'm requesting a zoning change, which would take it from industrial, which is M1, to commercial CS1. That also rolls into an OCP change because currently the OCP has that area all industrial. My personal view, I think industrial is fantastic, but this is a very unique and prominent highway fronting entrance to Kimberley. And I think a nice new retail restaurant and service station and some retail would do very well there. And I have those tenants that are excited to be there. So requesting that change, which would allow for a restaurant that has a drive-through, a service station, which would be gas and a fuel also per the bylaw. Infrastructure would be there, whether that's electric or hydrogen or wherever we go by the time this is ready. And general retail, along with a few other ones which were in the bylaw. The development, the restaurant alone is about, I just talked to them today, it's about a $4.5 million investment, excluding the lands. That's just what they put into the restaurant. They employ approximately 50 to 70, so we'll call it 60 people for that restaurant. I went around today and knocked on all of the neighbors' doors and everyone there. Currently employed in that area was 16.5 people, so fewer than 20, which captured about 15 acres. I didn't go over to the scrapyard, but they were pretty busy there. I didn't want to knock on that door. That encapsulated everyone kind of on this side, which is 15 acres. So that's about a 470% increase in employment just with the restaurant, let alone adding on to the service station and the general retail, which we've added some quasi-industrial use to a little bit with, to do auto repairs. I have to get in the paperwork. I'm sorry, I don't have it with me. Actually, I do. But at any rate, we can go to that later if you have questions on that. I've spoken to the neighbors. Directly across the street from me is the Jack Carter GM dealership. They're supportive of this. They would like to see more people, something opened all the time, greater safety of having a restaurant there, more lights on, more employment. I haven't, two of the other ones were on vacation currently, but I haven't had any opposition from any of the other neighbors. I also spoke to the neighbor just north of the GM dealership, and her family own substantial lands there, and they're very supportive of it as well. So this is, and the restaurant I'm looking at bringing here, they're a massive community supporter as well, including the employment of, let's call it 60, 50, 70. They are very supportive of the community. They give back a tremendous amount with S2 sports teams, employment of youth. They're the largest employer of youth in North America. And this, to me, having this self-storage yard, as much as I love it, walked around it a lot today, and it's a great business, and I do like that business. But I think the entrance to Kimberley deserves a lot better. I think this will generate a lot of employment, a great tax base. The overall development of the entire site will be closer to $10 million, excluding the land purchase. That's just on the development on top of that. And I'm not sure where the end employment will be by the time, let's say 60 people for the restaurant and half dozen, let's say 10 for the service station. And I'm not sure on the retail yet, but we're looking, between that, you're pushing up to 80 people. And I think it'll create a very nice highway fronting entrance to the city of Kimberley. I'm excited about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council, mayor, administration, anyone has on this site. And I would be asking council to approve first reading of the OCP amendment 2732 and also the zoning change, my writing's that bad, of 2733 going from M1 industrial to CS1 commercial.
All right, thank you, Lee. We'll have a seat. We'll hear from both staff and council. And if there are any questions, it's great that you would be here to answer those specifically. Yeah, okay. So before we have the conversation, let's get a motion on the floor. And the motion that I wish to put on the floor is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to change the official community plan, to modify the official community plan from industrial to commercial. Councillor McBain moves and Councillor Royer seconds. Okay, discussion. It was a very extensive report that was produced. Was there anything else that either you, Ariane, or Troy would like to add?
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to ask Ariane.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ariane.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. So Mr. Dowd gave a wonderful overview of some of the proposed amendments that we're here to discuss tonight. The application in question is requesting an OCP amendment to change the land use designation of the subject property from industrial to commercial and to rezone it from M1, which is the industrial wholesale and transportation zone, to a new commercial service zone to be able to facilitate the development of a highway commercial retail center. So in discussion with the proponent, staff tried to find a mutually agreeable solution to maintain the industrial OCP designation and to rezone the subject properties from M1 to a modified M2 zone to better align with city objectives and policies. Council may notice that there is another item on tonight's agenda that includes some modified M2 amendments. And we'll get to these a little bit later, but these are sort of similar to what staff had discussed with the proponent, and there have been a few tweaks since then. So the proponent expressed interest in maintaining the OCP land use designation, but wanted a greater mix of permitted principal commercial uses than what staff or OCP policy direction could support. And in that, they asked that their commercial applications be presented to council, and staff prepared amending bylaws to accommodate the proposed highway commercial retail center. Staff are not in favor of the proposal, given that industrial land is key for economic development and resiliency, and there's a limited supply of developable industrial land in Kimberley. The staff recommendation is to decline first reading of the OCP and zone amending bylaws as presented, and also to receive direction to prepare a report and recommendations towards policy and regulatory alternatives for drive-throughs and future gas station developments. Other response options also include council refusing to consider the OCP and zoning amendment applications. Just a reminder that council has no obligation to approve first reading of any OCP or zoning amendment requests. There is also the option that council may choose to approve first reading of the bylaws. And if so, staff still recommend that direction be provided to prepare a report and recommendations regarding future drive-through services and gas station developments. So, and with that, I look forward to answering any questions of council, and thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ariane. Pardon me, Councilor McBain.
Well, first off, Ariane, thank you. This was really, really helpful the way you laid it out. It didn't require us to do any digging, and it was super comprehensive. And I really like the fact that you did lay out several options at the end of this for us to consider, and that makes it helpful. Sometimes if there's just a one suggestion, it makes it a little bit tougher to deal with. As much as I agree with some of the arguments that are in here about preserving our industrial land, I think, you know, the way I look at this is it's an opportunity. We've got a proponent that already owns the space, already owns a business there, and wants to improve it. I think there's a lot of benefit to the proposal itself. One of the things that we struggle with here in town is restaurant availability for young families. So I think there's an opportunity there. I do like I appreciate the pointing out that there are several service stations in town already. Totally understand that. But if we have a proponent that's coming in and wants to provide services that a lot of our other stations, well, any of our stations don't have, with respect to charging stations and other alternative means of propelling our vehicles. I think that's great. I also think, the concerns around that too. This is an opportunity for us, if this ends up moving forward, to control the narrative a little bit on how stations move away from petroleum-based vehicles to the newer electric vehicles. And maybe we could things like tank removal or stuff like that can be a stipulation of a permit. I don't know, but there's opportunities there. So without getting too wordy or whatever, and other people can speak, I'm kind of in favor with moving forward with this. But I do really want to thank you, Ariane, for putting in a lot of effort here, and it was really helpful. And I think a lot of the changes that you did recommend, if we so go down this road, are really appreciated. It's super helpful. Thank you.
Councilor Roberts, then Councilor Royer. Microphone.
I'm going to ask you to bear with me a little bit here. When I got my minutes here, I was totally confused. I am confused. Now, I understand that we've had a new election, that we have a whole bunch of new people, and we've been taking things slowly and step by step and step by step, and we're getting there. But the bottom line is the stuff that I read today has just, it's like I woke up in an alternative universe. It's like everything that was is like, where did it go? We've been spending the last 3 or 4 years talking about Fourth Avenue housing. We've spent another couple of years talking about the arena and the double rink. We've had the state of the industrial park has been fresh on our minds for a good 8 years. How fresh is that? And probably before that. And now what are we doing last meeting? Well, we're going to have a workshop on how to beautify the downtown. Now, where does that come in? Whose idea was that? Why are we spending money on that when these other things are pending? So I'm confused. Now today, I get, or this meeting, I get what seems like a dissertation or a lecture on what not to do to move forward. And I want us to start getting into a better place where we start working to yes. I want us to get to a place where we can find ways to do things, not all the arguments why we can't. When we had a little incident at the top of the ski hill, it brought this town to its knees. And we do not have the diversification in our employee bank to live through that many times at all. This gentleman is just offering us an opportunity to hire upwards of 75 people, and he would be a taxpayer. And it's just got so much going for it that I think we need to find a way to get to yes and to work towards that. And if we need to do something to bring this industrial park visible, if this doesn't do it, where on our program can I see our industrial park project? I haven't heard about it yet. We've talked about it. What do we have to do to get staff to hear that we see this as a priority? Somehow or other, everybody knows about it. Nobody's doing anything. I haven't seen anything in writing yet that says we're fixing the industrial park, we're putting in water, we're putting in sewer, we're making it a viable place to do business. And so, like I say, if you bear with me, I feel as though we need to be proactive in these things. And we've got all these OCPs, we've got all these plants, we've got all these things. I've lived in Kimberley since 1950. I've lived there presently for 47 years. The industrial park has not changed since I was a child. Now, let's do something about this. We can always blame other councils, but let's not blame ourselves. We are now in a position where we have some serious deep thinking to do about whether or not the rules as we see them are working for us or whether they're going to tie our hands behind our back. And another situation has to do with the certification of the land. Bench land. When did we have a big meeting about the bench land? What do we have to do to certify that? Why aren't we doing that? Does it require me to make a resolution and a council and give it to staff? It takes a long time to do it. And every time it gets started, it gets dropped. So here we are with potential land to develop and we're not doing it. So that's my rant for the day. We need to take control of the direction that we're going to go, and whether the rules need to be bent or changed or altered or whatever. If we don't get off of our hands and make a choice to take some action in some way on some things, we may as well just all go home, go to bed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for those comments. Councillor Royer.
Wow, that's all I can say. I worked on this all weekend, Thursday, and what I'm seeing is, like Sandra says, if we don't go forward, what's going to happen is down the road, when visitors come and visit us, they're going to go to a restaurant, they're going to see it's full. Where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to Cranbrook. Well, we just lost a whole bunch of revenue in our community. So I'm going to be in favor of this to rezone from industrial to commercial. And if we want more industrial land, well, we'll find it somewhere else. So like Sandro said, nothing's happened for what, 47 years. So I think it's really time to step it up a little bit and let's go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Royer. Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, it sounds like this motion already has support, but I'd just like to speak on the other side of things too. Um, yeah, I feel like we do have a lot of restaurants in town already, and that this may detract from some of the small businesses in town. Not that that's relevant to the change in zoning per se. I also feel like there's a lot of gas stations in town right now. And again, it could negatively impact current businesses. Again, that's not necessarily a solid argument for declining this, but we have also been talking about industrial land quite a bit over the past several years. And based on that, I support the original staff recommendation of looking at the drive-through and the gas station policies that we currently have, and to decline first reading at this time until we look at those.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire. Further comment? Councillor Dunavac.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for their presentation tonight on both sides. As a small businessman, a parent, and a citizen of Kimberley here, the one thing that sort of got my attention was that somebody from out of town has realized that our entrance to Kimberley isn't super rad with industrial zone being right there. They're doing their best to keep it neat and tidy, but it's nice to come into a town and have that warm feeling. You're coming a long way. You've got your trailer, your RV, your dogs, your boat, your kids, and all that stuff. And to be able to have a place where you can pull in and stop and collect and let everybody out and walk around, and kind of, you know, a beautiful opportunity to look up the St. Mary's Valley and see what we have here. The fact that the possibility of employment of youth and adults, I think will be a huge bonus. And as long as it's nice and clean and tidy and has some green space, and not too much parking spots and stuff, I think it'd be a huge bonus. So I'd support this for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Dunavac. So I also have a few comments to make. I'll try not to be redundant, but diversification of the tax base is something that we have talked about now let me rephrase that. I have talked about, and off and on the collective we have talked about for about 8 years now. It takes time and a concerted effort to turn economic development activity into results. This isn't something that happens in a year or two, or even maybe 4 or 5. Well, it's been 8. And as was noted in the staff report, we are in fact starting to get some traction. Our population, pardon me, has reached or is reaching more of a critical mass. I mean, we've gone from 6,100 to 8,100 people over the last, since 2006, over the last 15, like 3 census periods. And that critical mass is necessary to justify the investment that people are bringing into the community. It's grown to the point where we are getting interest now from a whole lot of different areas, which is absolutely awesome. But our single biggest issue is overall land availability. And I'm talking about investment-ready lands here now for both light industrial and what I would describe as heavier commercial. You know, the fact that we have a Lordco in the Platsel instead of out in that Marysville industrial area, for example, makes no sense to me. I know why they're there. We have precious little commercial space that we have available for that kind of thing anywhere in town. The Jim Ogilvie Way bench area needs remediation, but it's been more years than most of us can count that it's needed that remediation, and we have not made much visible progress in a very long period of time. But it remains a significant opportunity. I think there's about 18 developable acres up there, which is significantly bigger than what the Marysville Industrial, than the Tyee property, the property that we sold to Tyee at the back of the Marysville Industrial property. That Marysville Industrial Park, I can only be kind by saying it's being neglected. It has no sewer. It's got broken roads and it's in need of significant investment if we expect any of today's businesses to want to relocate there. We have no available commercial land at all for any kind of commercial development the size that we're talking about here. I mean, where's it going to go? We talk about the corridor coming into town. It's full. The only way we're going to get anything there is if we start doing teardowns. And believe me, we're not going to do teardowns along the corridor on Warren Avenue to put in this, this type of development. This business, the highway coming into Kimberley. So interestingly, I think there are about 34 properties or so in that Marysville, or 34 parcels, I should say, in that Marysville industrial park. So along the highway, including the storage business that's there today and the two car dealerships, there are 6 possible lots of 34 in that area. There's only 6 lots across that highway that we're talking about here. And that is not going to jeopardize light industrial lands that we have available for other things. This development will fit perfectly along the corridor. Those 2 car dealerships are basically retail stores and automotive services packaged into one package. And this will fit very nicely with that. It's already been mentioned, but I think it's a big deal to talk about what the benefits to the community are. We've got the 6 to 8 million in permit value, which, to put in perspective, is larger than what our new Save-On store development was, which came in at about 5.8. And at 5.8, it made Save-On one of the largest taxpayers in Kimberley, representing about 1% of our variable tax rate. The 40 to 60 or however many jobs, it's significant. And even more significant is the fact that a lot of those part-time jobs are going to be available for youth in the community. And there are not a lot of jobs available in this community for youth. We talked a little bit about the provision of a place where families can eat out. The fact is that we don't have places where young families with 2 or 3 kids can actually go out and eat for less than $100. It doesn't exist in town. We're losing all of that now. So anybody who would be taking young families to this type of restaurant, they are now going to Cranbrook. We're losing that money to Cranbrook. And it would be very beneficial for us to keep that money in the community. The fact is we have over 900 kids aged 10 and less. We dug the stat out for the new daycare center that was coming in here in the next little while. That's a lot of young families, which happen to be the fastest growing demographic in town. All of this is a significant economic factor for young families. So I think at the end of the day, we would be doing taxpayers and residents as a whole a disservice by not moving this significant investment in the community forward with this first reading. And we have a long way to go past first reading, but what it does is open it up to a public hearing. And for any development that we have coming in, to stop it before it goes to public hearing makes no sense whatsoever. So that's the end of my rant. Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Royer, go ahead.
Can you define the difference between a service station and a gas station, please? Does anybody have the answer to that?
Well, I think that if you want to go ahead, Troy? No, I was just going to say, I mean, we look at service stations as places where you buy gas. And they're called service stations because you get a whole lot more done there than just buy gasoline. And so I think I personally have known these things as service stations for a very long time. To suggest that they are only gas stations, I think is a misrepresentation of exactly what they are. Troy, did you want to add to that? Okay. Okay. Do we have? Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I just wanted to thank Ariane. It's important that someone on staff is upholding the OCP. We did a lot of community consultation on that, and thank you for pointing out where this proposal is not consistent with that. That's absolutely doing your job, and good discussion by council on how to go about amending that to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Scott. All right. Thank you, Ariane. Much appreciated. Well, a lot of work went into this, and there will be lots more to come. And we'll have a conversation about this when we talk about the overall bylaw amendment for the designation. Thank you. Okay, with all of that conversation then, Council, we will call the question. The motion on the floor is to approve first reading. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The second motion on the floor then is to approve first reading for the bylaw amendment to change the zoning from the current M1 to the proposed zone CS1. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Dunneback seconds. Do we have further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Now, the last piece that we have here is that council, or the last recommendation I should say, was that council direct staff to prepare a report and recommendations toward policy and regulatory alternatives. Unless council wishes to put that motion on the floor, I would suggest that we defer this to a later date until the dust settles on where we're going with the rezoning and also with the M1 the M1 to M2, I guess it is zoning, and we'll defer to a later date. How does council feel about that?
So, Mr. Mayor, are you moving to defer?
I'm just asking for a motion to
No,
move.
that's not how it works. Are you moving to defer?
I will move to defer.
So then there's no
Do
more
we have a
discussion.
seconder? Councillor Royer seconds. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of deferral? Any opposed? Councillor McGuire is opposed. The motion passes. All right. Next up, we have the, I guess before we do talk about the zoning amendment, we have the official community plan amendment for the zoning amendment bylaw for 2325 Warren Avenue. That would be the Tyee development, I believe. Correct, Troy? Yeah.
I just ask a quick question on
Yeah, go ahead.
1.2. There was a section in there about an electronic public hearing be scheduled. Is that also deferred?
On 1.2? 1.2 is what we're talking about right now.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Sorry.
Yeah. So the motion on the floor is that council approves second reading for the OCP amendment for this for 2325 Warren Avenue. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Any discussion on this one, Troy or Ariane?
I'm available if there's any questions for that. We're just recommending moving forward on the next step there to give second reading and schedule the public hearing.
Public hearing.
Those amendments.
Okay, awesome. So we'll call the question then. All approval of second reading. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next is that council approves second reading of the bylaw to amend.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. For some reason, the second recommendation doesn't show up on your agenda, your paper agenda. And it should be that an electronic public hearing for bylaw 2735 be scheduled for the regular meeting of council on Monday, March 13, 2023 at 7 p.m.
So Maurice, do we not, we dealt in the previous motion with the OCP. Do we not need to also have second reading on the zoning for the zoning bylaw?
We do. It's just that it's two separate public hearing.
There will be two public hearings on that?
It's, yes.
There's four altogether.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So what is the motion on the floor then, Maurice?
That an electronic public hearing for bylaw 2735 be scheduled for the regular meeting of council on Monday, March 13, 2023 at 7 p.m.
March 13th, did you say?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, mover, please. Councillor Roberts, thank you. Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the council approved second reading of bylaw 2736, which is the zoning amendment. Mover, please. Councillor McGuire moves. Councillor Royer seconds. Further discussion? We're good? All those in favor? Motion is carried. And finally, that a public hearing be scheduled for
March 13, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Anything else on that, Maurice?
Nope, that's all
We're
good. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, next up, we have zoning amendment bylaw 2738, which is the light industrial zone M2, basically moving M1 to M2. Now, this would be for all M1. All right, the council approved first reading of this bylaw to modernize the M2 zone to support future industrial development. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Clear? Thank you. Okay, Ariane, take it away.
Thank you. So the proposed amendments to the M2 zone were inspired by another development application. Bit of work went into preparing these M2 amendments. And although that application went in a different direction, the amendments are still relevant and would modernize the zone to reflect current industrial land use trends. So there are quite a few known deficiencies with the M2 zone, and proactively addressing these deficiencies would not only benefit existing parcels, particularly as there are upcoming development applications that will require text amendments to the zone anyway. So this is just a way to get ahead and still with the OCP use for the industrials, and also provides an opportunity to establish a consistent and cohesive land use direction that may otherwise be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So the proposed amendments are in to complement existing uses in the two zone while providing more opportunity and flexibility. The additions include an art craft studio, brewery or craft distillery, food or beverage production, office with some limited uses and merely focusing on trades, servicing, surveying, engineering, those types of things, research and development, and then also some limited retail uses, including building supplies, industrial equipment, retail that would support sort of the overall other uses within the zone. So proposed additions to the permitted accessory uses include a restaurant, but again, with a limited seating capacity intended to serve local workers and those types of things. And other key changes include increasing the height of a principal building or structure from 7.5 meters to 12 meters, and then also establishing a maximum height for outdoor storage. So staff recommend that council provide or approve first reading to the bylaw, and if it is adopted, or if and when, the proposed amendments would affect one parcel along Knighton Road and then also 5 properties located north of 303rd Street in the Marysville industrial area. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ariane. This has been a while coming. It's great to see it on the table. Councillor McBain.
Yeah, this is great. And thank you guys for being proactive. Like this is exactly what we're looking for. One comment before I have a question. I really like the fact that you've included the professional opportunities for professional offices. You know, one thing we talked about with the light industrial in our special meeting relating to taxes. Is, in my opinion, related directly to these types of businesses that, currently are located in other municipalities within our area with much higher tax rates than we have. And these are the type of businesses that, you don't necessarily need to have, you know, a big fancy draw. You're not getting a lot of foot traffic coming in. It's a lot more professional type of work. So this is excellent. I was curious, is there a way to include words such that like not limited to like this list that we have right now, or does it have to be a little bit more prescriptive? And I'm asking just because I don't know.
I guess a couple of ways we can think about that is, you know, we've tried to modernize the language there so that they're a bit, you know, fairly wide reaching and can be viewed and interpreted to include related things, similar things. But another point is if in your review that you know, you think of something or identify something you feel is just not there or not included, let us know sooner than later, and we can still add that before final, or before the
Further?
Yeah.
So you would prefer to not have it be so open to being broad, right? You'd rather have it a little bit more.
Well,
little
we
bit more
want to make sure we have the list of uses that supports the, you know, the land use mix that we want to see.
Yeah.
Some of those categories I think are general enough to include.
No,
Maybe it's not specific.
fair-
to
no,
Medford,
fair
but it's
enough,
general
yeah.
enough to be similar. But again, like if there's something on your mind or that comes to mind later that you think should be included and you're not sure it fits, let us know. And
Yeah.
we can add that in there before a further reading.
My only concern would be if some crazy opportunity came up that fell outside those boundaries, but you know, we could address it at that time. But this, I don't need to go any further. Thank you, Ariane, for putting this together, and really thank you for being proactive. It's great.
Awesome. Thanks, Counselor. I have a question, Troy, and it has to do with the taxes, actually. You jogged my memory on this, Counselor McBain. So we have zoning, and then we have business type. So BC assessment, I think, designates a business type. Can you help me out with this?
I think I know where
very
your
confusing.
I think I know where your question's going there.
Because a business in a light industrial doesn't necessarily mean they pay in light industrial tax.
That's correct. Yeah. So you know, looking at the Marysville industrial area, there's some businesses there that's all industrial zoning, industrial designation on the OCP. Many of those businesses are in the business class, assessment class.
Class 6.
So BC assessment in their valuation and their assessment of the value of property, they classify that value by type. And there can be a mixed type on certain properties. I mean, most common one is mixed commercial residential. There can be mixed commercial industrial. I think that's fairly rare in our case. You know, but they assign that assessment class, and then the city then applies the appropriate tax rate to that assessment class.
Yeah.
So even though we might zone it a certain way, if the use category, the use type fits their definition of an assessment class, then that's the class it's going to be in, and that's the way it's going to be taxed.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Troy. I got what confused me was that all but one of the businesses that currently exist in the Marysville Business Park are all class 6, even though we have an M2 and M1 zoning down there. I thought that's weird. So I appreciate the explanation on that. Thank you. Council, further questions? Motion on the floor is to move first reading. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Thanks so much, Ariane. Okay, next up, we have the City of Kimberley Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw, and this is for adoption. The motion on the floor is that Council adopt the bylaw. Councillor Roberts moves, Councillor Royer seconds. Everybody remembers why we do this. Cash flow contingency, given that we don't collect money until July. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the development variance permit for 845 Deer Run Drive, and the motion on the floor is that Council approve the permit. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Discussion. Go ahead, Troy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind council that the late item that was on the agenda tonight was a piece of correspondence from the neighbor to the south of this property. And their indication is of support for that proposal. And I'm happy to read that out or provide more explanation or detail there if you'd like about that letter. But we've at this point, we've received no other submissions to that.
Right.
We're recommending proceeding.
Given it was in support, we probably don't need to cover that again then, unless council wishes to hear the specifics. Nope. Anything further, Troy?
That's
Good.
it.
All right. Call a question on approval. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, first item under new business is the opportunity for comment on an amendment to occupancy for the Griston Mash Brewery at 345 Wallinger. And the motion on the floor is that the City of Kimberley does not wish to provide comments or recommendations to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch with regard to the proposed license amendment. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McGuire moves and Councillor Royer seconds. So we haven't had one of these in a while. There's a specific reason why we do not comment. And Troy, do you want to, or Scott, do you want to, which of you will?
I'm happy to.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, so through the liquor license review process, when we get referrals on these that ask for comment, our general recommendation is to opt out of providing comment, and that at the same time opts us out of having to gather comment. If we want to comment on it, then we need to gather comments from neighboring properties and residents and the like, and so that's one way we can try to lighten the load on administration. In general, there's, as long as the business, in this case, it's an existing business that's doing a minor expansion. In other cases, we're doing a normal zoning review and building permit review, all that kind of stuff. So generally, most of our questions and concerns have generally been addressed already by the time we see these things. And so there's very few comment that we have. When we opt out of comment, then that puts the onus back to the liquor board and usually back onto the applicant to put notice out about that, and then those comments go directly to the liquor board, and then they make their own determination about those comments.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Troy. Doesn't mean we don't support it. We're just not going to assume responsibility
That's
for
correct.
gathering comments. Councillor McBain.
No, I just want to say thanks to Troy for the explanation, and I think we've probably given it enough consideration, and we should be saving staff's time. So let's move forward.
Councillor Royer, thank you for that.
I have no comment.
All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as said, any opposed? The motion is carried. All right, next up, we have a couple of check runs. One in the amount of $1,772,080, and the second in the amount of $583,377 to be approved as paid. Councillor Roberts moves, and Councillor McGuire seconds. Anything? Thanks, guys. Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. Further comment? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, we have a number of items of correspondence to receive. There is one potential for action. So let's receive that first. A motion to receive. Councillor Royer, thank you. Councillor Dunneback seconds. This is a request for a letter of support from the Healthcare Auxiliary. They've supplied a draft letter. I assume everybody has read that. Anybody have any issues with this? Can I have a motion to provide that letter of support? Thank you, Councillor McGuire. Seconded, Councillor Dunneback. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And the other four letters, if we could receive all four. Motion, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor Royer seconds. Anything in here that anybody would like to comment on? Councillor Royer, go ahead.
The letter from Jay O'Brien.
Is that Jack or John?
Like to, for my Gavin letter, avoid spraying pesticide using biological control. And having a pesticide license, I tend to agree with him because, that microphone wasn't on. Let me try that again. I support his letter. One of the main reasons is I have a pesticide license, and I don't like using harmful spraying solution. I always use that as the last possible resort. But using a biological solution can be the answer to a lot of problems. So I agree with his letter, what he says in here. It makes total sense, and I support him.
Thanks for that, Councillor Royer. I don't think at the last meeting, Jack, there was any intent to minimize the comment that was being made. Yeah, sorry if that was interpreted that way. So every year when it comes up to kind of doing the plan for the coming year, staff look at all our alternatives that are available. I mean, are we still using the goats? Yeah, no, we haven't for a while. But we have done alternate ways of dealing with the invasive weeds. So we will take it under advisement that we have some additional options here, and appreciate your comments. Thank you. Anything else? All right, hearing none, I will call the question on receipt. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Okay, question period. We, since we are still live online, we still need to go through and allow any public that is viewing either online or in the gallery tonight. You have an opportunity to comment on anything that was part of the meeting tonight. And for those online, you can call 800-741-7180. And when prompted, the meeting number is 2770-043-3236. Your microphone will be unmuted at the appropriate time. Okay, while we are waiting, let me ask if anybody in the gallery has anything to add this evening, and then we'll go on to councillor matters. Go ahead. I don't think it's a secret. It's a McDonald's. Yep. Anything further? All right. While we're waiting to see if anybody online has any comments, we'll do mayor and councillor items. So let's start with Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, I've been on vacation for a month, so I'm just getting back into the swing of things here. So nothing major to report other than a good vacation.
Yeah, that's awesome, Woody. Glad things went well. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been appointed to Center 64 as the liaison, and there was a little bit of a kerfluffle about the being president Center 64. So they've moved to the Zoom format. So I'll be attending my first meeting there tomorrow evening. 14th tomorrow evening. So we'll see. I think it's going to end up being their AGM because they've had to defer some things and whatnot.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Sandra. Stephen.
I'm happy to report I went to the federal government, the regional district conference. And my goodness, it was a 2-day marathon and I learned so much about everything. I didn't know where to start. So I only got the highlights, thank goodness. So everybody knows that the regional district is in charge of the transfer station. And I asked a loaded question. I asked them, where's the styrofoam go? And a lot of people don't realize that in the past it has gone in landfill, but that has ceased to exist now. The provincial government contracts it out for recycling. And I did a heavy research, where does it go? Mexico City for recycling. So styrofoam is possible to recycle. The other highlight was First Nation. The treaty is still ongoing. I got their version. I learned a lot about them, their population. There's 1,500 in the regional and 15 out the regional. I would really encourage anybody else to go to these conferences. I learned so much, and they know me now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Kevin.
Yeah, I attended the annual general meeting of the Kimberley Underground Mining Railroad Society. We had a phenomenal year. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was 8,500 people. I think there was 80 dogs. We've been getting a lot of grants. We just finished the pump house. It's beautiful, full steampunk now. It's just an awesome feeling to go in there and to realize that that was the heart of this town for a long time, and the fact that it's still there and still functional is awesome. It's beautiful. We've also received a grant to now go after what was the carpenter's shop. So we're in the process of going through some remediation for things, contamination and stuff there, and we'll be putting a new roof, and it's got new paint on the inside. And I walked in there actually yesterday for the first time since it's been painted and the windows have been done. And it's just like walking back in time. It's bright, and and yeah, it's awesome to see, and it's awesome to be a part of it. I was also appointed by Mick to be vice president while he's away, as his wife is not well. So I'm familiar with the locomotives and track and all that stuff, and have the ability to be there if needed. So I gladly accepted that
Awesome.
position.
Yeah, outstanding. So I know it's winter in February, but July's coming pretty quick. There's a lot to get ready for the new season. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Kevin. Jason.
I guess between the last meeting and now, I had it was health center meeting. Really still trying to just optimize the tenancy there at the health center, and just working through other issues. Nothing super noteworthy, at least right now. I missed a library meeting, and I need to just catch up with Greg Bradley. And we haven't been able to connect yet. So once I get an update from Greg and we have a discussion, any news from the library, I'll bring it forward. But that's it for me.
Great, excellent. Thanks, Jason. So a few things. It's actually been a busy couple of weeks. I had a meeting with the provincial negotiators that are part of the Ktunaxa-Kinbasket Treaty Advisory Committee. Good to hear you got the update at the regional district, Stephen. I actually sit on the negotiating committee as the regional district representative. So as you had said, there's not much happening right now, but soon to come, no doubt. I also was on a call with the local government folks with respect to the deer situation that we have in town. The conversation was around the approach that we need to take to overpopulation, and the communication that that we'll need around whatever solutions that we put in place. I had the privilege of attending and welcoming the team captains for the FIS races that occurred here a couple of weeks ago. This was an amazing year. There were 150 racers this year. I think the biggest year previous to this year was 120. So COVID, coming out of COVID, it's really accelerating people wanting to get out, and it sounds like we're looking forward to a lot of these teams returning again next year. I also had the opportunity to give a little speech at the banquet, talk a little bit about Kimberley, and it is always awesome to do that. I also participated in the provincial nominee program monthly call. Foreign investors, coming in. We've had a number of requests, a number of business plans that have come in and requests for on-site visits. All of those are in play. I had a CBT board meeting in Fairmont this year, or this month, I should say. Nice not to have to travel very far. I attended the Chambers, the Kimberley and the Cranbrook Chambers gathering that they had at the airport. I think it was called the Airport Takeover. It was a fairly large number of businesses from both communities that attended, and it had about a 20-minute, really good 20-minute presentation from Tristan Chernov, who is the general manager for the airport here, on status and recovery from COVID, et cetera. I won't go into the details now, but it was really enlightening. I had the privilege to be at the School District 6 groundbreaking for the new childcare facility that was announced here a couple weeks ago. 148 new childcare spaces in town. Just a game changer for the families that we have in town that are looking for childcare. I mentioned a little bit earlier that we have about 900 and some odd kids 10 and under, which is the demographic that's being targeted by this particular facility, and that's a lot of kids, and the majority of them require childcare of some kind. This will more than double the number of licensed spaces that we have in Kimberley. I attended both of the downtown revitalization sessions, the one with the businesses in the afternoon and the open house at night. They were both, from what I observed anyway, really well attended. Great feedback from the business folks downtown. And I think the evening session, I didn't hear about any feedback that came in, Troy, but I assume it was pretty good in the evening as well. And finally, I had a meeting a little bit earlier with the Arts Council, President Linda Douglas, just talking about a variety of things where the Arts Council is connected to the city. They've been down for the last almost a couple of months now, I guess, with the boiler problem, and they're being squeezed a little bit. So she wanted to have a chat about kind of where things were going. That's it for me. Maurice, any calls?
We do have a caller. The person with the number ending in 99. I'm muting your mic. If you can identify yourself and ask your question or comment to council.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Who are you talking to, please?
I'm Ashley. I'm pretty new to Kimberley. I've been here 2 years. Married a local person. I'm from Australia. I guess I was just watching the council meeting with my wife, and we felt like it's great to have a McDonald's and a service station come to town, but like every day there's hundreds of people that drive from Kimberley to Cranbrook and back because there's not enough high-paying jobs in Kimberley. And it feels like this isn't going to really make much of a dent in that. Not to say it's bad, but it seems like the industrial land and commercial land is much more important.
Appreciate those comments. Anything further?
Okay, thanks.
Anything, anything further?
On that, like I would like to start a small welding fabrication business in town. Is there likely to be any space anytime soon, or should I be looking to go to Cranbrook to start that business?
Well, hopefully you don't have to go to Cranbrook to do that. I would say that I guess a couple of things. I would ask or suggest, I should say, that you get in touch with Carl Lauren at Tyee Homes, who is responsible for a large portion of the newer portion of that industrial park down in Marysville. I would also suggest that you get a hold of our planning manager, Troy Pollock, and Troy may be able to help navigate some of the existing spaces that we have. So between those
okay.
between those two folks, we'll be able to tell you whether we have that space or not. What kind of timeline are you looking at establishing the business?
Reasonably soon, within a few months, like just getting started as a small operation.
Awesome. So Troy
Um,
Pollock, and Troy, can you give us your number, direct in number?
If you just want to email me
mm,
at planning@kimberley.ca. Send
Yeah,
me your
okay,
contact
great.
info.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the suggestions and your time.
Yeah, for sure. What was your name?
Ashley,
Ashley. Awesome.
yeah.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Appreciate it. Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we do have an in camera this evening, so I need a motion to move in camera. Councillor Royer moves and Councillor McBain seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, we'll take 2 minutes and then reconvene.